Listen, I know why you clicked this video. You wanted to see some rare items only Barbarian playthroughs. My name is Z, and welcome to the Dark Chronicles of Diablo. If you're new to this channel, welcome in. I do hardcore playthroughs of Diablo 2 Resurrected and usually do challenge runs based on viewer suggestions. Today, we're playing a rare items only Barbarian thanks to the idea from Lemon Key 8132. Since I'm still a massive YouTuber now that I've made YouTube partner, I wanted to announce the sponsor of today's video. This video is sponsored by Mana Daddy Energy Potions, the only drink brewed in Tristram. Are you tired of running out of mana halfway through a fight? Say goodbye to blue globes and hello to Mana Daddy, the only energy potion brewed with 100% ethically sourced arcane residue. Whether you're teleporting into danger or arguing with Deckard Cain, Mana Daddy keeps your spellcasting smoother than a sorceress on Insight. Side effects may include fire resistance, arcane flatulence, and uncontrollable chanting. Health insurance deductibles are the responsibility of the imbiber. Alright, now that we got the stupid fake sponsor out of the way, let's get into it. The rules of this challenge are simple. I must do the entire playthrough only using rare items, which are the yellow colored items. I must get my own gear by drops or through gambling, and I must use the Barbarian the entire time. I create my character and I name him Giga Chad. I throw away my axe and buckler and I hit the streets. I kill some bosses and stuff and oop. Yeah, okay, that didn't go so well. Anyway, my name is still Z, and we're gonna do a rare only Barbarian playthrough. And now we're gonna make a Barbarian named Randy Bly, as I think I'm gonna be doing a lot of screaming. My strategy for this run is to go throwing Barbarian until level 30, and then respec into Singer Barbarian and see how far that gets me, or until I get some godly item that convinces me to switch again. I throw the starting gear on the floor again and head out of the rogue encampment. I punch a few fallen and gather some gold and hit up my homie Geed for a chance for some rare items. I decide to gamble javelins and end up getting fairly lucky. I burn about 10,000 gold and get 3 rare javelins to pick from. I take the best 2 and head out into the wilderness to yeet some javelins into some demon skulls. I start finding some useful charms to increase my damage and life total, and then I farm Rakanishu until I'm at least level 10. He drops some rare boots with some crap stats, but hey, it's better than nothing. I find a rare leather armor with life, dual resistance, and dual integer damage reduction. I really like this armor. I'm going to be wearing it for a bit. I hit level 12 and I get double throw, which will be my main attack. The majority of my level ups, I'm going to be putting points into throwing mastery, as that makes your character much more efficient. You get quantity replenished on critical strike, it increases your chance to critical strike, it increases your chance to pierce enemies, and it gives you attack rating and damage. I hit up Geed again and start buying belts, as they are the first 3-row belt option you can get. I end up with a belt with 70% faster hit recovery, replenish life, and some fire resist. The most important thing though is the amount of potions I can handle, which went up from 4 to 12. I also found a random rare skull cap, which wasn't anything spectacular, but it filled an item slot for me, so I'll take it. I finally saved Cain after killing Rakanishu a dozen times, and I headed to the barracks to grab the Herodic Malice so I can use the Imbue quest later, as this is a rare items only run. I journeyed to the Catacombs level 4 to find Andariel, the Maiden of Anguish, and she honestly was pretty easy at this point. I just yeeted some javelins into her cranium until she dropped some rares. The ringmail would go on my new mercenary. I said new mercenary, so you know what I did. I hired a new mercenary when I got to Act 2. I went with a prayer mercenary and his name is Hazad. My favorite mercenary name is Durga, but he was not available. Sorry, Emilio lovers, but I don't like him. He must be protecting some other hero, so we kind of moved on with our homie Hazad. I ran down into the sewers to avenge Atma and chucked some javelins into Radamant for the extra skill point. I smashed some grubs and got the Staff of Kings, decimated some snakes and got the Amulet of the Viper, and finally leaped into battle with a corrupted sorcerer and reminded him who's boss. Duriel, the Lord of Pain, was fairly straightforward. One of my javelins had 5% chance of casting amplified damage on strike, which increased my damage a lot. This happened a few times, and he went down after a few trips to town and resurrecting Hazard. I was super pumped that Duriel dropped a rare ring, as jewelry would be the hardest upgrades to get. I was even more pumped that I saw 4% lifesteal and some fire resist on it. The rare short spear was also an upgrade over one of my javelins, so that was pretty sweet. The chain gloves were useful as well, as I didn't have an item in that gear slot, and the Frost of a Chance will prove to be useful in crowd control situations. Act 3. I did the Jade figurine quest, and I found a rare scythe for Hazard. I popped open a cocoon and got a rare balanced axe to replace my other javelin. I was hyped that it had mana leech on it, as now I wouldn't have to be chugging mana potions as much. I grabbed Kalim's eye, and I did the Gidbin quest for a guaranteed rare ring to fill up my other gear slot. The ring was pretty solid, as I had 78 attack rating and half freeze duration with some poison resist. I'll take it, baby. I grabbed Kalim's brain in the Flare dungeon, and Witch Doctor and Dugu dropped a unique longbow, which is Ravenclaw. This bow would be so much fun to use, but it's, again, the challenge of this run is not to use, other items, just rare, so I ended up selling it to the vendor. I then leaped over and grabbed Kalim's heart in the sewers level 2. Mephisto, the Lord of Hatred, was not too bad. I just kept distance, and sometimes he would slow me with cold damage, but overall, it wasn't that annoying. There weren't any close calls. He dropped a War Staff with 10% faster cast rate, and I kept that for later for when I respec to a Singer Barbarian. Iswal was the normal situation where he takes 20 years to kill due to his super high life total, but he hits you like he's wearing pool noodles for weapons. Literally, I don't think I've ever died from this dude. He does hardly any damage. I gambled some rare gloves before the Diablo fight, and they had some gold find on them with some poison resist. They're not super helpful versus Diablo's lightning and fire damage, but at least it's something. Diablo, the Lord of Terror. This fight is one of the 4 challenging fights in hardcore playthroughs. I've had him kill me a few times when I had low fire and lightning resistance. Honestly, this character didn't have a ton of either, but being ranged, I was able to dodge some of his attacks and heal when needed. Also, Barbarians have a lot of health, so that makes it a lot less scary. The short spear he dropped was a pretty cool with 20% increased attack speed, 63% enhanced damage with some bonus attack rating. The replenish quantity mod is just a quality of life upgrade, it wasn't very necessary. After Diablo, I did my usual of farming Eldritch for levels until I'm level 35 or so. I got to level 30, and I headed to Akara for a respec. I put my points into Warcry and its synergies, and I equipped the 10% faster cast rate War Staff for extra damage. I head to the Crystalline Passage and find a bunch of Moonlords and Stygian Harlots, and this normally would be scary, but with the stun with Warcry and the damage, they died so quickly and easily. The normal Ancients fight went really easily. I just spammed Warcry and mana potions, and they went down so fast. You can't stun lock them with Warcry, but it still works well for doing damage. Wave 1 of Bale was a joke, as was Wave 2. Come on, show me some challenge here. Okay, Wave 3 was a little harder, but still pretty easy. Wave 4, stun locked the shit out of them, and they went down. And Wave 5. There we go, this is a bit harder. Blister took some serious hits. Bale, the Lord of Destruction, has a ton of health, but doesn't do a lot of damage. I have over 700 health, so I'm not in too much of a, worry about getting dropped fast. I end up having to go to town a few times for mana potions, but I whittle him down bit by bit. He drops a bunch of rare items. Unfortunately, most of them just ended up being vendored. The unique Splint Mail is Ice Blink for those who are curious. So these are my stats upon clearing normal mode. I'm level 40 with 802 life, 216 mana, 64% fire resist, 29% lightning resist, 28% cold resist, and 70% poison resist. I have 10% faster cast rate, 37% faster hit recovery, and my Warcry does about 280-ish damage per cast. And here is my gear. I'm not going to list all the stats, but you can take a look, and you can pause if you need to check out the stats on the pieces. Alright, Nightmare mode. I head out into the Bloodmoor as a level 40 barbarian ready to conquer the world. I head straight for the Herodic Malice in the barracks for another imbue quest. These can prove to be useful later. Then straight to Andariel, no use messing around, might as well slam her back to hell. I'm fairly tanky and she doesn't do a ton of damage to me, but I also don't do a lot of damage to her. I spam Warcry a million times and eventually she goes down. She drops a bunch of rare items. The unique longsword is Hell Plague, in case you're wondering. It gives some poison damage, some fire damage, dual leech, and some fire skills. Unfortunately, no upgrades for me, and I move on. Act 2. I ran straight to get a new mercenary. I trade in my boy Hazad in for a new model named Liharis, who has the Holy Freeze aura. I really like this aura in hardcore as it really lets you control the enemies with the slow on it. Might and Blessed Aim do not do anything for Warcry, but if I was still a throw barbarian, those would be decent options as well. I then remembered that I didn't save Anya in normal mode, so I went back and saved her to get my 10 resist all quest reward. And maybe get a godly barb helm, question mark? It wasn't godly, but it was still a nice replacement to my shitty skull cap. The 15 life and 3 increased speed to run faster was very welcomed. I killed Pindleskin a few times for fun, and I found this great barb helm with 30 fire resist, 11 poison resist, and some passives that are decent, but not necessary. Back in Nightmare, I ventured down the sewers to kill Radamant for another skill point for my build. He was pretty tanky, and this build doesn't do a ton of damage, but it's fairly safe. I get to Nightmare Duriel, and he was a bit trickier than normal mode. I have close to 1,000 life, but he still hits pretty hard. Through some determination, I kill the Bug King and get a rare scale mail with 9 dex, 24 cold resist, and 11 fire resist. I head out of Act 3 and venture down to the Spider Cavern to hang out with my buddy Cesark the Burning. I scream at him a few times and he falls over dead. I grab the eye and I peace out of there. I imbued the first circlet I found and was ridiculously happy with the life leech roll that it got. I gave it to my homie Lihara so he can have some sustain. I went back to Act 3 and I did the Gidbin quest, and the rare ring was good as it had dual resist. It can replace my attack rating one as I'm currently not using melee or ranged attacks. I grabbed the brain and the heart easily and moved on to Travangle. This High Council thinks highly of themselves, but I quickly remind them who the real chief is. I yell at them over and over again until they fall over dead. This barbarian has a loud voice for sure. Thanks, Randy. Mephisto is no joke this time. I do very minimal damage and he still does quite a bit to me. I end up going to town a few times restocking mana potions and I finally get him down. The unique flail is the General's Tan Duliga, which isn't anything special. Maybe now. The small charm didn't roll anything good either. Diablo. This was a tough fight for sure. I think this was the longest fight of this entire challenge. I'll spare you guys the full fight because it took forever. He dropped a bunch of rares, but none of these were upgrades, and they were helpful in getting more gold so I can gamble some more. You already know what's next. Eldritch farming. I'm going to do this until at least level 60. Many runs later, I find this rare tavern. I think to myself, might as well check the stats. Holy shit. 193% enhanced damage, 194 attack rating, and 6% life leech. I immediately think this would be fun to do a leap attack build with, and I head straight to Akara. I respec into leap attack, and I start slamming Eldritch again to get some more levels. I get this cool splint mail with life and decent defense and give it to my mercenary. The breastplate has dual res and has 35 life, and I end up using this one. A few runs later, I get this sick barm helm with 28 lightning resist, 15 fire resist, and a little life. Lightning and fire resistance are the most important resistances to get to a decent level so you can survive in hell. I make my way through Act 5, and in the Ancient's Way, a small charm drops. And it's a 15 to life small charm, which is pretty dope. The Ancients fight took a long time, but was fairly straightforward. My mercenary died pretty early on, but I ended up jumping on Marduk a bunch, and I got him down pretty quickly. I then timed Korlik's leap attack, and I counter leap attacked him without taking a bunch of damage. I did this over and over again, and he eventually died using this tactic. Talik actually was fairly dangerous. He did decent damage with that Holy Shock aura, and got me low a few times. I just used leap attack on him when I was high life, and used potions to get back to high life when he got me low. I did this several times, and he eventually went down as well. Bale was a tough fight in that it took a long time. Not that it was a tough fight in that he did a ton of damage to me. Jumping on his head a million times, I guess, gave him a migraine big enough for him just to give up and let me live. My wife says that I am a headache, so this kind of makes sense why this tactic works. He ends up dropping me nothing too useful, which isn't too surprising at this point. These are my stats after beating Nightmare. I am level 62 with 1,906 life, 115 mana. I have 10% lifesteal, 3% mana steal. With leap attack, I can hit for up to 2,800 damage, plus the AoE can hit up to 970-ish. The attack rating is pretty low with 3,200, so I'll need to fix that before we move on to Hell. My resists are all maxed at 75%, which makes me happy. As with normal mode, here is my gear upon beating Nightmare. You can take a look, but you saw some of these pieces already during the playthrough. Ah, yes. I'm a conqueror. That sounds good. Let's move on, shall we? I do more Eldritch farming, and I get this cool link to mail for my mercenary. It has 48 life, some cold resist, and 283 defense. I also find this really cool short spear, and I keep it as it has life leech, decent enhanced damage, and some increased attack speed. Maybe I'll go back to throw barb at some point, who knows. I can always upgrade this rare item with the cube recipe as well. I find this dope ancient armor for my mercenary with 393 defense and some lightning and fire resist. Here we go. Hell mode. Let's get hype and fuck shit up. I'm level 67 and ready to pound. I go into the Den of Evil and get humbled very fast as the zombies there slap the shit out of me. I do end up finding a 34 life Grand Charm, which was very helpful. And I very slowly clear the Den of Evil, and I decide I need to do something about my shit damage and being so squishy. I use my last respec to go back to throw Barbarian as I have 2 decent throw weapons back in my stash. I tango with some champion quill rats and they're dying pretty quickly. And oh my god, a Malrune? Let's go. Too bad I can't use rune words in this challenge. That would be pretty cool. I go back to normal mode and I do the Lamb Eisen's Tome quest for 5 stats. I go to Nightmare and do the same quest for 5 more stat points. I go to Nightmare Iswal because I forgot to do him on the playthrough for 2 more skills. I also do Nightmare Hellforge for fun. I get a shitty soul rune and some gems. Alright boys, I'm ready for hell now. I head out of the rogue encampment. I run along the road like the Giga Chad demon slaying beast that I am. And I encounter this bridge where there's an elite pack behind me and an elite pack of quill rats in front of me. I start throwing weapons and then... Shit. Fuck. God damn it. This is more disappointing than running into a wall with a boner and your nose hitting first. Oh well, my dudes. That's what you get. Well, that's all I got for you this week. I'll have a new playthrough that I'm working on that has a bit of a twist in the theme. If you like this type of content, hit the subscribe button as I produce hardcore Diablo 2 content often on this channel. I'm moving away from producing content every week at 6 p.m. and doing every other week on Saturday at 6 p.m. This will give me some more time. I realize you guys enjoy my playthroughs more than my tips and tricks videos I make, so I'm going to focus more on those. I'm sorry for not posting the past few weeks. I've been on a bit of a medical leave due to an injury, and I thank you guys for watching any content that I make anyway. If you made it this far to the end of the video, how about you yeet a comment below and include the code words peanut butter in your comment somewhere so I know that you're a real one and you watched the whole damn thing. Alright dudes, That's all I got for today. Z is out. Peace.